This is going to be a response to I Owned You Noob. He just did a video on American guns versus foreign guns. You're basically buying dollars, you know. What do you do with them? I agree with some of what he said and disagree with some other stuff about what he said. Anyway, if you haven't checked out I Owned You Noob, you should. He has a pretty cool channel. Anyway, back on topic. American guns versus foreign guns. This is kind of where I stand on it. Is it doesn't matter to me whether you buy foreign guns or American guns. I think you should support the country that invented the firearm that you like. I mean, if you like a 1911, I wouldn't buy a Chinese 1911. If you like a 1022, I wouldn't buy one from Russia. You should buy an American one. Which those guns, I don't know of any other country on the planet that makes either one of those. Well, let's take AK-47s for example. In my opinion, I would never own an AK from any country besides Russia, China, Bulgaria, or Poland. Maybe a couple others, like the German ones are pretty nice. A couple of other countries too, but the point is, I wouldn't ever own an AK that was made in the United States of America by choice. I really, truly believe you should buy a commie-built AK for it to be a viable, combat weapon. AKs that are built here in the U.S. are substandard, to say the least. Half of them are awesome, the other half of them suck. Quality control is really bad on U.S. AKs. Mainly because of the fly-by-night organizations that usually make them. I'm not talking about Arsenal here. When I talk about crappy AKs in the U.S., I'm generally talking about Inner Ordnance and Century Arms International. Or Century International Arms, whichever one they're going by these days. They tend to switch back and forth. That's why I would prefer a foreign-built gun. And let's be clear also that Arsenal does not make AKs in the U.S. They take guns from Bulgaria and Russia that are sporterized to get into the country and return them to their original military configuration with enough U.S. parts to where they're considered a gun that's made in the U.S. Totally different, in my opinion. I would still count them as a Bulgarian or Russian-made gun. Basically, that's kind of why I don't really like AKs that much, is because there's just so much bullshit involved with owning one. But you have to figure out, who really made the gun, then who took it apart, converted it to a sporter, and then who turned it back. Okay, it's a lot to keep up with, and making sure that all along the way everything was done correctly. I don't like that. That's why I tend to choose the AR-15, because it's all made in the United States, and there's no 922R hassle with it. And I think it's a superior weapon. Okay. That being said, if ARs continue to be, $2-3 grand, I'll probably never own one again. And you're probably wondering why that's on the table. That's what happened to my AR-15. I traded it for that. Okay, that is currently a parts kit on an 80% receiver. It's going to a machine shop this Friday, 2 days from when I'm filming this, and is being built into a semi-automatic Browning automatic rifle. When AR-15s get to be $3,000, that's what happens to my AR-15. It gets sold and turned into that. Or, any other gun that's really worth $3 grand. And I'm going to make another video on this to the same person here in just a second, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But as far as the whole economic side of things, where you're not supporting a U.S. Business, he made a big argument about that he's still supporting the little guys, because the gun shop is still making their $400 off the AR is what he said. And I disagree with that, because on average, Gun shops make 20 to maybe $200 off of any given gun. It's somewhere in that range. The more expensive the gun, the higher the profit margin is. But it's usually like, I don't know, 10%, if that, of the price of the gun. Like on a Ruger 1022 that retails for $275 brand new from a good dealer, or $325 if you go to like a big box store. The profit margin on that is about $30. A little bit more from the box store. Of course, they tack on an extra $30 basically, because they figure that they'll eventually run a sale on them, and that's the price that they'll actually sell them at, is like $300 when they're priced $325. They'll sell a few for $325, but most of the ones they sell, they'll sell for about $300, because people wait for the big box stores to have sales. It's part of the game that gets played here in the U.S. Anyway, and he said that he, didn't necessarily want his money going to the big corporations. I'm going to disagree with that too. Anyway, sorry. He didn't want his money necessarily going to the big corporations, and I hate to tell you, but the big corporations, quotes again, are what keep us having guns, basically. If it wasn't for the greed of those big corporations, the Second Amendment would have been gone a long time ago. The NRA, that pretty much is the reason we still have a Second Amendment, doesn't protect us. It protects them. And they fund that, and they want us to have the Second Amendment. It's like tobacco companies. They aren't lobbying to protect the smoker. They are lobbying to protect the right to make cigarettes and the right to sell those cigarettes. They don't give a damn about the smoker. Okay, other than that he needs to be alive to buy cigarettes. It's the same way with the gun companies, not quite as dark as the cigarette companies. But it's that same mentality that they are there to protect the business interest. Why? Because that's where the money is. It's in huge companies like Remington, which was one of the ones he mentioned, or Ruger. Okay, those are the companies that are the reason we still have guns.
Roland?
Sorry about that. I hate it when people interrupt when you're filming a video. It really, really pisses me off. Anyway, I was railing about the fact that those companies are the reason we still have the Second Amendment. And it's absolutely true. Not necessarily Ruger or Remington. Actually, if I had to pick 3 companies that I thought were really, really pieces of shit in the past, it would probably be Smith & Wesson, Ruger, and Remington. They aren't anymore, but they once were. A long time ago, when Bill Ruger was still alive, I would have never owned that gun. I fucking hate Bill Ruger. His children, or whoever has taken over the company now, Mike Gurney or whoever the fuck it is, get it. They get the whole thing. He didn't get anything. He was in it to fucking make money, and he thought if he could eliminate every other 223 on the market but the Mini 14, that he would sell shit tons of them. He was fucking right. So he backed the 1994 bill, and in my opinion, because of that, I would never support that man again. As soon as he was dead, though, his children were like, "Oh, we need to get public opinion back in the good about our company." So they reversed all that shit. Started making, if I can get the damn thing out, started making 25-round Ruger 1022 mags. Started making high-cap Mini 14 mags. Started making AR-15s and 1911s and all sorts of fucking defensive firearms. And then here recently they even did a thing on their website where they would write a letter to your politician. You give them your name and all your info about what district and whatever you're in, and they have a pre-formed letter that they just send from them, actually from you, I guess, to your politician. That's awesome. I think every gun company should do that. Minimum. There's a lot of other stuff they should do. Anyway. And Remington at one point pretty much made hunting guns. And they were some of the FUDs in fucking Congress. Sorry, some of the FUDs that were influencing Congress at the time to think, well, the Second Amendment is about sporting purposes. And they had the NRA doing this whole shit about it. Okay, it really just fits in with Remington's whole fucking shit. All they do really is make hunting guns and precision rifles for target shooting. And I'm going to use that term loosely because they're fucking police models, which I guess are law enforcement specific, so even that, they weren't originally intended to be sold to the public. They've kind of turned over here recently and started making shit tons of models of tactical shotguns available to the public, where before you maybe had a couple. They started making a handgun again. They started making, just a second. Okay, back again. I really, really hate being interrupted. Anyways, that sort of mentality that reigned over the NRA for years, thinking that, oh, we just need hunting guns. No, it was meant to protect guns like on top there, not like these. In my opinion. Anyway, that's why I really don't like Remington, just because they're a really hunting and gung-ho FUD company. Smith & Wesson, kind of different issues, but mainly Smith & Wesson has always seen themselves as the makers of law enforcement handguns. As a result, they have some interesting views on the public. And at one point they wanted all civilian firearms to be registered through them. They basically had a registry that if you bought a Smith & Wesson handgun, it was registered through Smith & Wesson to you. And they had a program where, if, a Smith & Wesson handgun was found at a murder scene, the police just went and looked it up and looked who bought it, and then went and talked to you. Yet, you probably didn't change the registry when you sold the handgun to your neighbor or at a gun show or whatever. So that's why I kind of have an issue with them. We've kind of gotten totally off topic now. We're circling back around, though, to U.S. firearms versus foreign firearms. I personally like U.S.-made firearms just because they're nice. Most of the better designs come out of the United States of America, believe it or not. There's a few that do not. I'm going to say about 70 to 50% of the better handgun designs in the world come out of Europe these days. What with Glock and H&K and Walther and SIG all being in Europe, and CZ actually too. Pretty much the only companies left here in America that I would consider for combat handguns would be Smith & Wesson, Colt. Even Colt these days really isn't impressing me. I'm trying to think of others. FN makes some handguns here in the U.S. now. It's really just hard to find a company that makes combat handguns here in the United States. Besides 1911s, we make a shitload of 1911s. But like Glocks are made overseas. XDs are made overseas. CZs, Berettas, H&Ks, Walthers, SIGs. Actually, a lot of SIGs are made here in America now too. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that there aren't that many handguns made here in the U.S. that I would consider combat handguns. Even if you go back and look in the 80s, a lot of them were coming from Europe. And a lot of that I think has to do with our fixation on the 1911. America has a love affair with this gun. It's, I don't know, unusual. It's a good gun, but it's far from the end-all be-all of combat handguns, in my opinion. It's actually the only handgun I own right now, and that's going to also be in the next video. So in short, you should buy a gun from where it was originally made. Probably going to have to delete all of this video and start all over, but if you stuck around through all this rambling, that's the long and short of it, is buy a gun from where it came from. Chances are, if it's taken to another country and had shit tons of stuff changed about its design, it's no longer the gun it once was. It may not be as reliable, or it doesn't function the same, or any number of things could happen. Buy a gun from its country of origin. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Don't forget to thumbs up the video.